Welcome to the 2025 season and welcome to F4 Milestone, the countdown. This is episode 1 of our new 2025 video podcast. And for this first episode of the season, we have a guest that I'm very happy to have, Neus Santamaría. Neus, thank you very much for coming with us on this day, because I know that you have many stories to tell about motorsport. I know that you like it as much as I do and as much as our viewers do. So again, thank you very much for joining us. How are you feeling?
Good, and thanks for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here on the opening episode of this season's podcast. And yeah, a pleasure to be here with you.
So Neus, for those that may not know you, because we know that your work, we will get into it, happens behind closed doors in many aspects. How would you define yourself? For those that don't know about Neus Santamaría, what does Neus Santamaría do?
So basically, whenever someone asks me about my job, the job title is easy. So I'm a race director. I do races nationally, but mostly internationally. And I've been doing this for the last, 10 years in motorsport right now. So I started when I was 16 as a volunteer in the circuit in Barcelona. And since there, I knew way before that motorsport was not my life, because I've always seen it as a hobby. And I really enjoyed it. So step by step, I started doing different championships. And to the point that now motorsport is my 24/7 job, which is like really a day-to-day job. It's not only racing, because there's a lot that happens behind racing. So yeah, that's my job right now. I'm an international race director.
In many ways, it's a dream come true, because you are able to, let's say, start from a hobby point of view and say, I love doing this, and somehow, I know it's not somehow, but in a way that you managed to open that door and find your place.
For me, like really, when I was a kid, my dad used to do motorsport, but he was doing motorsport only on the weekends when he had free time. So I never thought I could be doing motorsport as my job. Like, not even in my house. If I asked my mom and dad and I said, I want to pursue this, I want to do motorsport as a job, I know 100% that they would have said, no way. Like, you're going to university, you're studying a degree. If you want to do something motorsport related, do it. But you need a proper job. And then if you want to do motorsport on the side, you can do it, because this is not a real job. And that's the thought that I always had growing up. Like, this is not a real job. I really like it. I really enjoy it. But I cannot live just doing motorsport. But now we've reached a time in which motorsport is my real job. And I can live only doing races. But I always think, like, whenever someone asks me that, I always think, like, maybe this finishes tomorrow and I go back to my real job.
Real job. It's a bit like a racing
I always
driver,
think real job, because whenever someone says me and I said, no, but I used to have a real job. But like,
let's call
this
it conventional
this is a real job.
Let's say conventional job.
Yeah, conventional job.
Because this is real. This is very
exactly.
real.
This is real. But in the end, I have my studies. I went to university, studied to be a teacher, and I used to work as a teacher. So I used to work as a teacher Monday to Thursday, and then Thursday to Sunday do racing, and then like that every single week. And I did that for, I think it was 2 years and a half. And I think it was Christmas of 3 years ago that I said, That's it. Like, I really need to stop. I really need to rest. And then it was the point of deciding, like, should we jump ships and say, let's do motorsport and see where this goes or not? And I thought, like, in the end, like, now's the time to do it. I'm young. I do not have someone behind me that says, no, you need to stay home. So I jumped ships and I chose motorsport, and we'll see how long this.
It's been good so far.
Yeah, it's been good. It's been good. I cannot complain.
And you were speaking about your family, about your home. I think that you have that, even though, as you say, maybe it was not a real job for them, but you have a history of motorsport in your home, and you have motorsport in your veins as well.
Yeah, for sure. Because in the end, we are the strange people in my family, because it's only my mom, dad, me, and my sister. Well, now my sister's boyfriend is also a motorsport junkie. But everyone else in our family, yeah, they like motorsport, but it's not like in my house. Like, in my house, I know we could be watching motorsport 24/7 and no one would complain. Maybe my mom, if it gets like too deep and too much, but she would be the only one, because everyone else could be watching like motorsport 24/7. We are all involved in different
one
kind
way
of
or another.
exactly, different kind of ways. And it's that, like, for us as kids, we used to go like literally every single weekend that there was a race at the racetrack in Barcelona. We would go, me and my sister with my mom, to go see my dad. But in the end, we would be there like stuck
Enjoying
like
everything
stuck on a
and-
window, like looking at everything that was going on. I remember that before in Barcelona there was a room behind race control that had glass that you could see the pit lane, and we would be there like 24/7. We would get there, sit there in chairs, me and my sister, watching cars go by like all day, and we had like no issue. If we have to be there at 9 and we're leaving at 6, we are
That's
here at
great,
9,
yeah.
we're leaving at 6, it's fine. Just give me snacks, we'll watch cars.
That's,
Perfect.
That's the dream. That,
And in the end, that's been my reality since I was a little kid. So when I had the opportunity to choose to be a marshal, I always say that no one pushed me to do it, because in the end, it was not something that was going to be mandatory in my house. But for me, it was the excuse to spend more time with my dad, to understand what my dad was doing. And I really enjoyed it at first. And then I also saw it as a really good way to improve my English. Because
which is very good, by the way.
I always thought like this is the way to. I really like to speak to people, so I will be speaking to people 24/7, and I'll improve my English. I'll meet new people. I'll just do this. So I started that when I was 16. So
not too bad.
my friends were partying on the weekends, and I was waking up at 5 a.m. to go to the
I
racetrack.
think that's more fun, if you ask
Yes.
me. That's more fun. You spoke about having studied to be a teacher. I know you wanted to be a lawyer as well.
Yes.
And you ended up studying to be a teacher.
Yeah.
I studied to be a teacher, so it's two
Ah,
teachers having a
good.
conversation here. And I think those two jobs, they do have something in common with
Yes.
dealing with people. And,
A lot.
I mean, a lawyer deals with the law, and you deal with the law in motorsport. And a teacher has to, teach things, and you are teaching things.
Yeah.
And if I can be a little bit mean, you're dealing with children sometimes.
Yes.
So, I
Yes.
mean, there's a little bit of transference there, isn't it?
I really think there's a lot of times that whenever I'm doing a briefing, I remember the first time that I did a driver's briefing, and I was on my head like, I'm going to sit in front of like 100 people to do a driver's briefing, because my first briefing was a GT Open briefing, which was like huge crowd in front of me.
And you have so many cars
I
and
was
two drivers per car.
I was 21 by the time, and I remember sitting next to my boss at the time, and I looked at him and I was like, there's no way I'm doing this. Because I remember it was the year of COVID, so it was the first real driver's briefing we were doing this season. So even if I think it was the last race of the season, but I didn't know them face to face, and I was like, I'm going to sit in front of 100 people that I do not even know face to face. They do not know me. They've heard my voice on Zoom calls, but they do not know me.
They don't know you.
And I'm going to sit here in front of them. I'm only 21. It's my first race, and I have to be telling them, like, you're doing all of this wrong. And I was so scared. And then when I started, I remember having the feeling of, like, this is just like a school class. Like,
Yep.
It's exactly the same feeling. Yes, sometimes they ask more complicated things, but as you said, most of the times it's just like dealing with children.
I was being a bit mean because some of the drivers, I
But,
know they're young.
but it's like that.
and
but
they
it's
ask,
like
they
that.
ask the questions, like, why cannot I do this? Why cannot I do that?
I always say it's kids with expensive toys.
I mean, I think that's
Kids with expensive toys.
Yeah. Or big kids if we go into
Yeah,
different
big
classes,
kids with
but-
expensive
yeah,
toys. But
exactly.
but that's always the thing.
Yeah.
And I think having that perspective of thinking this is just like my class in school, they're just like my kids. They will ask things, but like no one's trying to be mean to you. No one's trying to hurt you. No one's trying to like be on the bad side. Everyone's just trying to understand how things work.
Yep.
I think that's been really good. And I think working in championships with kids has allowed me a lot to bring that teaching side of it and teach them a lot on regulations, procedures, because I think it's really important to give them some kind of learning, because in the end, to be a racing driver, the only thing that you need to do is pass a medical exam and pay money to get a license. You don't need to do anything else. So I think it's really important when these kids jump from karting to formulas to give them special training on how all of the procedures on racetracks work, because in the end it's completely different from what they're used to doing. And it's really important not to think they are reading regulations, which they are supposed to be doing.
But we know they don't.
But I think it's also really important to give it to them like in a more like comprehensive way, so they really understand what they need to do when something happens to them.
And do you think that it helps when you don't just tell them what they need to do, but why?
Yes.
Is it a way that they get that idea into their head?
Yeah, I think it's easier when you try to get them to understand why things work in a way, and it's not something that we come here and we tell you need to do things this way.
It's not arbitrary.
It's not that I tell you need to jump out of the car if you have an accident. Is that if they rescue your car and maybe they bring it up and it falls, something breaks, maybe you're going to have an injury in your back. I think it's when you give them all of those explanations that they understand why we do certain procedures, because if not, they just think they come here, they bring us all of this information, and we have to do things yes or yes, how they want to do it, and they do not think what's the reason behind it.
So Neus, going into a bit more detail, for those that of course people will know roughly what race direction entails, but if we go through a race weekend, what does a race weekend look like for you, generally speaking?
So generally speaking, we usually get there, it always depends a lot on the championship, but we're usually there one day before everything starts, because the main thing that we do as race directors is our biggest concern is safety. So the idea of going there a day before is to see what potential spots could be a safety issue, what potential issues we could have on track, incidents, how we're going to deal with everything inside race control. So when we get to the driver's briefing and when we speak to the team managers, we have as much information as possible, and there's no question that has a let me go back to you later. So we have all of the information before going to those meetings. Then on the first day of racing, we usually have testing. So that's the sessions that we use to gather as much information as possible of what could go wrong during the race weekend, even if it's like slow rescues, cars that are doing a lot of track limits on a place that we had not controlled. But really, like a lot of things, or I don't know, something as simple as if the CCTV cameras are well placed or not. So if we have like a proper view of everything that we need to see. And then that day we also do driver's briefing, which is, we said, I think it's the most important thing of a racing weekend, because it's the only moment in which we have everyone together, and we can tell everyone together how do we need to proceed on everything racing-wise. If it's not our first race of the championship, I think it's really important to tell them what they did wrong, but also what they did right. So if there's like complicated things that went right, I think it's really important to tell them, especially when it's kids with no experience in Formula 4, that it's their first step into circuit racing, that you tell them like not only what they did wrong at all times, but also what they did right.
I think here it's showing that you have this experience with children.
Yes.
It's positive reinforcement. Good job.
Exactly.
Good job, Neus. I appreciate that.
And then that's it for the first day, which is usually Friday. And then Saturday and Sunday, it's full on qualifying, racing. And that's, I think, always Saturday and Sunday go through like super mega quick, because it's just like work, like nonstop, even if it's sessions, reviewing sessions, seeing what we can improve for the next sessions. So yeah, it's a lot of work. I think whenever we speak to people and they see it, like schedules of racing, and they say 9 to 5, like that's great, that's just like a regular job. And I'm like, yeah, but if we start at 9, I'm probably there by 7.
Yep.
And if we finish at 5, I'm probably leaving at 9 if I'm super mega lucky. But usually, like, that's not even the case.
And when people do 9 to 5, they take breaks.
Exactly.
And you don't really take much.
But it doesn't
breaks.
exist.
No.
But yeah, weekends are always like really tough. But I think if you work a lot during the weeks and the previous days reaching an event, there's less things to do on a race weekend. There's always things to do. But I really like to get things like super prepared as much as possible before arriving to the place, so there's less things out of control whenever we get there.
And of course I have to ask you, it is a shame that I have to ask you, but there are not probably as many women in motorsport as we would like to see. So do you feel like a responsibility being able to be a woman in that kind of position, as in showing that this should be the norm?
I think it's always been complicated. I've never seen myself as a role model. Because I don't know, I always think I'm just doing this. I've always thought doing motorsport was like something normal because it was super normal in my house. And I've never seen myself as being strange, being a woman. I know that now, whenever like people like say it or it's being talked a lot, yes, because I look around and I look.
You're aware of.
I look at my team and I'm like maybe there's something wrong here. But I think right now there's a lot of women more and more in all of the championships working and being visible faces of all of the championships. Because usually before, I know a lot of press delegates that are women.
True.
But the press delegates are not like the public face of any championships. No. Which means if I'm at home watching a race on TV,
you don't see them.
Like you don't see them. You don't see
them.
The
most you see, when the driver is talking to the press and the press officer is just beside him, but that's the most you see.
But it's like now we have a lot of engineers, mechanics, team managers. And I think now that we have a lot of women team managers, that's the first time that we are seeing more women on TV. Because we've seen engineers and mechanics whenever there's an issue on the car. But seeing people like women sitting on a pit wall, I think that's the first time that we are starting to see that, there's women involved, and some of them have been doing the job for like more than 20 years.
Yeah, exactly. And I was very excited when Haas announced also in Formula One that we will have for the first time ever a female race engineer, which I think is super cool.
Yeah.
And it is something that people will hear a lot because you're listening to the radio and you will hear that voice. And I think it's nice that we can see this change, which I think, as you mentioned, it's happening a little bit in all levels, not just. Mm-hmm. Not just in press, not just in.
But it's. I have to say, it's still complicated because
I think sure.
It's not that it's still complicated. It's still something that's on the news. That whenever like something like this is announced, we're all like, "Wow, like this is huge news," and I'm like,
and it shouldn't be
like
right.
She's an engineer. She's now chief engineer on a car. Like, easy. Like it's not something strange. But it's like with me. I've been a race director for the last 8 years. I did my first race 2021. It's now 2025. I still do not know a lot of women being race directors of like championships. And I go all over the world. I see a lot of championships. And whenever we do meetings, I look around and it's like, like this is still not changing. I know it's changing. Like it's small steps, step by step, but we still need to work a lot on finding the space and giving people the space to be able to do it.
And you think these steps, because when you were mentioning this, I kept thinking, it's probably good that this is being normalized, but also on the other hand, when we singularized it, when we say, oh, look at that, we're making it less normal than it should be, but it's also done to make it normal. So it's a little bit of a paradox, because when you try to make it normal, you make it less normal.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about that?
I think whenever like there's things on the news of she's the first women race director, and I remember I had it like the first time that I was race director, there were like a lot of news on like newspapers, things, interviews, and everything, and it got to a point that I was like you're just asking me to interview myself because I'm a woman race director, like not because like you like my job, I'm doing proper things. It's just because like
the
I'm
only
woman.
Selling point is
like
I'm a woman,
it's like that's the only selling point. And it got to a point that I was like, I just do not want to do more interviews because I know it's only because of that. And it made me start thinking like, did I get the job just because I'm a woman, or did I get the job because I'm valid to do my job? And then it gets like complicated on ourselves, because like it's really positive to be on the news, because in the end that's the way you will reach more people. That's the way like young girls will see like there's an opportunity for them to do exactly the same. But at the same time, it makes you like be like double thinking everything that you do, double thinking every job offer that someone sends you. And
Are they sending it because they
complicated.
want to have a woman in that position?
Exactly.
Because it looks good, or is it
is
because...
it marketing? I always think the same. Every single time someone offers me a job, I always say, but is this marketing, or is it, I know know, someone talked about you and we know you're valid for the job? Because if it's marketing, like, we can just hang up this meeting, do something else, because I do not want to do it.
Yeah. I think it's good, though, that you can have a position where you can say, look, I want to do the job that I'm good for, because that means you are good at doing that. But on the other hand, do you think that these steps maybe that we're seeing, are they not enough maybe? Or, I know it's a tricky question. And I know that I'm putting you in a position where you have to give me the truth of the world, which is not fair. But
no,
at the end of the day, I cannot give you my opinion because I'm not in that position. I cannot experience it.
I always think we need to wait. I always think at least, like, it's bad to think like this, but at least 20 more years.
Okay.
To really
not wait. We need
not
to,
wait,
we need
but
to see
like to see the change.
Years, right?
See the change, I think we need like one more generation. Okay. I think our generation right now is really like conscious on all of these topics, really like respecting of the way that women have to have in the world, and it's like this. But I think it's that we need another jump of generation. Because I always think the generation of my mom and dad, they understand that women can be motorsport, it's like accepted, but on the generation of my granddad, it's really complicated.
It was very rare.
It's really complicated. I say, like, in my house, it's not complicated because, like, they have me, so they have to deal with it. It's just like that. They have to deal with it. But I have it, like, whenever, like, my granddad talks, like, to his friends and says, no, like, my granddaughters are doing motorsport. Oh, wow. They're like, really? And I always tell my granddad, like, if you were saying, like, my grandsons are doing motorsport, they would be like, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Like, no one would ever question that. So I think it's that, like, we need to skip another generation.
Do you think, okay, again, this is a mean question. How much do you think is prejudice?
Yeah.
And how much do you think is just, oh, it's unusual for a girl to like motorsport, let's say? Because I tend to think that it's not always malicious, isn't it? I know that in some cases it might be, but I think in some cases it's just that there's less interest, maybe.
Exactly. I think it's not malicious. I think it's just like in our heads.
We're not used to it.
Like, cars are for boys. Like, that's it. It's in our heads. Dumb. It's like this. It's not like they are not capable of doing it. They cannot be here. They do not belong. It's just in our heads, cars are for boys. Like, even if we, like, on my generation, like, we think like extremely on everything before doing it, I think, like, I know it from myself. If my sister had a kid right now and it was a boy, I know I would give him a car, and I would have to, like, really think on my head to buy a car if it was a girl. And it's
you
like,
would,
it's,
though. I think you would.
I know I would, but because, like, it's my sister and she's like, she loves motorsport just like me. But if it was maybe a friend, I'm thinking motorsport is also for girls. That's
an
why.
Interesting take, honestly.
I don't know. I think it's that, like, even on my head, if I thinking whenever someone says like motorsport is for boys, I'm like, okay.
I mean, no, but
okay, I can understand it.
I get that, yeah.
Because in the end, it's that, like, if you go back through history, yes, like, it's been a men's sport, yes, but that doesn't mean that we can come now and change everything and be more involved on it. But I think that stereotype of women do not know how to race, this is a men's sport, it will always be there. It will be really difficult to change it. That's why I always think it's going to be maybe give it 20 more years and maybe then we can change people's mind. But I don't think it's something that will happen in like 5-year time.
So in that sense, that's why it's important to have a project like the one you're involved with,
exactly.
Which is Donagas. For those that don't know Catalan, it's a wordplay on give it gas and woman gas, which is very, very nice in our language. But tell me a little bit about that project. What are your goals? What have you been doing so far? And how's it going?
So we started the project, I believe it's like nearly 3 years ago. We started it with a bunch of girls that were involved in motorsport in various ways in Catalonia. There were racing drivers, co-drivers, organizers, officials, a bit of everything. And in the end, it was just a group of women that we got together and we said, look, like we just want like more people like us. Like we want to make friends. Like literally it got to the point of we want to make friends. Like for sure there's more people like us that are interested in motorsport and maybe they do not know how to get to the same place as we are.
And you have similar maybe experiences and maybe similar challenges perhaps.
Exactly. So we did an event in the racetrack in Barcelona. They were like really happy to host us and give us the place. So we did the first event in Barcelona on a GT Open race. So we had GT Open drivers, team managers, engineers, and we brought people that we all knew, officials, doctors, press delegates, technicians, a bit of everything, just so everyone could talk a bit of like, look, like this is my job, this is what I do in motorsport. And we could present like different roles that there is in motorsport so that, as we said before, like if I watch motorsport on TV, maybe I think I can only be a racing driver. But there's so many other things that happen behind the person that's the racing driver that's not the only job that I can aspire to if I want to be involved in motorsport. There's so many other things. And we wanted to highlight that. And from that started only as an event of let's just do talks, go to schools, do this. And it's evolved in like a really big thing because we started then a karting championship. Because in the end, we cannot expect to have a new F1 driver that's a woman and just put it back like straight into F1.
It doesn't come out like a mushroom in the forest.
It doesn't work like this.
No.
Doesn't work like this. I cannot like take a woman, put her in a suit, a helmet, step into an F1 straight, let's go. Like, doesn't work like this. Like, you need to go like through all of the steps to get there, because if not, it will not make sense to put a woman inside an F1 just to say, first F1 women driver. And it will not make sense because it will not succeed.
I was going to say.
It will not succeed. Like, it will be just like, okay.
It's
like,
counterproductive if it's just
it
bad,
will make no sense. So for us, it was really important to start on the grassroots of sport. So start with karting, teaching them, going back into teaching again. So teaching them a lot of what motorsport is, how do they need to find sponsors, where to race, how to race. And we started with that, going to rental trucks to find people that were enjoying like going karting with friends or with family, but were not on a proper championship, and going to those families and to those girls to tell them, like, look, we are doing a karting championship. If you want to come and try, like it's for free, just for girls. So just to give you like this like heads up start and then jump into the Catalan Karting Championship. And the first season, I remember I went to the first driver selection that we did, and there were like nearly 20 girls. And I remember I went with my dad, and I was like, can you believe? Like, just with an Instagram post and going to 3 like karting tracks, we got to this, like, and they really want to do it, and they are really involved. And we were really lucky that for the karting, we've had a lot of help from Belén Garcia, and she's been really involved in the project, helping the girls, even like driving with them to show them how to improve and where to improve. And since the first, what we've done, and I really enjoyed that we've done that, is that since the first season that we did it, there's always one of the girls that graduates from the championship that is the teacher for the next generation. So she's always, really nice. She's the one that goes with the girls to all of the racetracks, that comes with us with things that they can improve, goes through them, debriefs with them after each session to see what they can improve. Because we really think that, as we said before, information, there's a lot of things in which we can share information with people, and with them, I really think it's easier if it comes from a person that they see as an equal and it doesn't come from us. In the end, at first, they were like listening to it from Belén, that was like the star, and they were like looking at her like the star. And now that they see it from someone that comes exactly from the same championship as they do, I think it gives them the power to say, like, look, like, you can come from this, do all of this formation, and then like win the Catalan karting championship, which already happened with one of our girls. And I really I'm enjoying a lot the project, the feedback from the families. We try to give them a lot of opportunities of going like to big events, big races. So they see a lot of what happens on a paddock, the different jobs that they can do. So they do not have the frustration of, I'm not good at karting, I will never reach a formula. I do not have money to do it. And that's it. Like, my motorsport dream is over. So that they see that there's so many other jobs that they can do, and they want to do it. We had the opportunity this year last season that F1 Academy went racing in Barcelona, to bring them all into the paddock on an F1 weekend, which is like the craziest thing to do. To bring them for a full day on an F1 paddock. They were there, went through F2 and F3 teams, went and saw all of the F1 Academy paddock, met the drivers, met the mechanics, engineers.
And how cool is that? Because they can see all of the jobs that they can do as well.
That was crazy. I always say, like, whenever we do these events with them, I'm there and I think, like why didn't I have this when I was a kid?
Can you imagine, though? Like, imagine you're like 10, 12-year-old kid, and you know, imagine the school tells you, well, we're going on an outing, and we go to the Barcelona circuit for the F1 Grand Prix.
We did a field trip with them to go watch ELMS with Tatiana Calderon in Tatiana Calderon's box.
It's great.
And her sister explaining to them what motorsport is, what do they do, like, this is my car, what I do with my car. And I remember I could not be there. I organized everything, and then I was on a race weekend somewhere else. And I was like looking at the pictures. And I was like, can you imagine just being there, like looking at Tatiana Calderon, like face to face, and Tatiana like explaining things of her life and everything. Like, it's massive.
That is amazing, though. And also I wanted to ask you, because you mentioned that, of course, you have in this project many women in many different positions. Mm-hmm. You've been in many different positions as well. Now, I'm asking you in the context of your project and women, but I think this applies to every kind of situation. It doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. Mm-hmm. But when you go through different positions, I think that you always get the chance to learn a lot from.
Yes.
Not just, just because you're a race director doesn't mean you don't have to understand anything else. Mm-hmm. If anything, knowing all those other positions gives you a lot more background. You've mentioned that you've been a marshal, and you've done all sorts of positions. How much does it help a race director to have actual experience in those jobs? As you said, a driver doesn't just land into a race car.
Exactly.
You don't just land into a race director position.
I think it gives you the knowledge of how everyone gets the information and how all of this information is then like transmitted into race control, and also of how when I started, I was a runner, which in what you do as a runner is you just bring papers all over the racetrack. Now we are lucky that papers are no longer on racetracks, so that's a job that's like slightly disappearing. But with that, I was just running from timekeeping to race control to get the results signed, then like doing 500 photocopies to get them everywhere. But with that, for example, the first years, I got to know like everyone working at the racetrack. So
it's
people working in the press room that like I never go to the press room, so I would only see them whenever I would go there to bring them papers. The speaker of the circuit, which is like the voice that you always have. I always tell Cesc, like, that's the voice that I have in my head whenever I go to a racetrack. It's always his voice. And then like getting to know him and understanding how he works, what he needs, what kind of information he needs, what kind of images he needs to do his job. And I think it was a good way like to learn how all of the racetrack works and all of the information is shared within everyone. And also the other part of the job as a runner is to bring decisions to the teams, which is now called a competitors relation officer, which is now like a really fancy name. Now it's a really fancy name, but it's simply that, like bringing the papers to the teams to get them signed. And that's what got me to know a lot of people, teams, team managers, drivers that I now work with, and they knew me as a 16-year-old running around the paddock, bringing them papers and decisions. And I think it's really good. And that's for sure the part that got me like to learn a lot of English, learn a lot of languages, and to meet people that then got me opportunities to work in in other championships. But I think it's great to have it, because then when you're acting as a race director and you see everyone else, you know the tempos of everything.
How
so
long
you know,
does it take to get this
so
done?
you know what you can rush, what you cannot rush, when you can shout at someone because it's taking so long, and when it's just like making this clip takes 2 minutes. Like you cannot ask it faster because it takes 2 minutes. It's just like that, and I think it's really important to understand the job of everyone that surrounds you. Just so you know that the timings of the things, and that things can not be like instant.
You were speaking about your job as a runner, and I have to tell from my point of view, because I used to be in a team as well, and I wish I had someone like that, because I was being the runner. I was the one running to get that information, because no one was bringing it to me.
I have to say, I still do it. I still run everywhere.
I think we all run in a racetrack.
I still run everywhere, and I still like whenever like the stewards need someone to bring papers to do something, I'm still always the one that says, just give it to me, I'll do it.
I'll be
just
quicker.
Give it to me. I always have that. I'll be quicker. Just don't worry, I'll be quicker. I'll do it myself. Or I'll just go run upstairs to timekeeping to get this done, and I'll come back running. And there's like, no, but there's someone that does it. I'll do it faster. I'll do it faster. It's fine.
So Neus, you work with a lot of people, of
Yeah.
course. You deal with a lot of people. From what you've said, it's very obvious. But I can imagine that not everyone is as easy to deal with. Who are the trickier ones? You know, teams, drivers, other people from, you know,
I'll
this direction.
say,
It's a tricky question, I know. You don't have to give names. You don't have to.
no.
Give names.
But
we don't
I'm
give
thinking,
names
I'm
in
thinking
here.
names. I'm thinking names in my head. I have faces in my head, but probably when it's talking on F4s, it's complicated to deal with the families. Probably in karting is even worse. On our side, we always try to be like really strict on the only people allowed inside an office is the team manager and the driver. No one else is allowed. But I know like when there's like big crashes and these things, it gets complicated, because in the end, it's what we've been saying the whole time. They are kids. So it's whenever like feelings get like really, really, really involved, it's complicated. Families are complicated. But I think nowadays driver coaches are the worst part of our sport. And I always say it, and I have like a really good relationship with a lot of driver coaches, but driver coaches are complicated.
Is it because they have the perfect, I say perfect in the meanest way possible, the perfect combination of feelings,
Yes.
almost as if they're a family, but they have the knowledge to actually challenge you on
Yes, and
what you say?
most of them have been racing drivers. It's not that they come from an engineer perspective, because whenever engineers come, they are super technical, whatever. But whenever driver coaches come, they do not come trying to act as a team manager. They usually try to come acting fully as a driver.
As a racing driver.
Like, I'm a racing driver, I know what I'm saying. And I'm like, yes, but you're not here as a racing driver. You're here like representing...
You were not driving the car.
Exactly, you're here representing this kid that's here. So I think driver coaches are complicated to work with, because it's that they are not team managers. They still have a lot of, on their mindset, they are still racing drivers. So it's really difficult at like some points to talk to them and to like make them understand how things work, because probably in their heads they have, when I was racing, this was like this, and I'm like, yeah, maybe, but
Things
now
changed, right, throughout
now
the
things
years.
have changed,
And
it's
Neus, how do you deal with those people who they think they know better than you? And I'll ask you the question in two parts. You can go part by part.
Yeah.
But first of all, how do you deal with those people? We know there's always people like this in
Yeah.
every kind of environment. And have you ever met a situation where you've been challenged on a decision, where you've thought to yourself, well, that actually makes sense? Maybe not to change the decision, but
Yeah.
maybe to go back to the regulation
Yeah.
and say, maybe we should change the way this is written because this is going to be confusing.
That for sure. Like every single time that I write regulations, or that we change regulations because like we feel that something's not right, I always try to ask the teams on like, does this make sense? Like, are we just doing this because we are thinking on a commercial way and an administrative way, but we are not thinking on sport, and you have like another thing? Or on the other approach, that we are thinking on something like just purely on the sport, and they say, look, like logistically, like this cannot happen, like we cannot do this. And I think it's really positive to have like an open mind, like an open discussion with the teams and all of the sporting team in order to have regulations that make sense in the end, that it's not like something like super rigid and it has to be like this, but it also gives them margin to be able to work, and it gives us margin also to be able to apply regulations. Because in the end, there's sometimes that regulations are written like super strictly, and then you go to apply it and it's like, yeah, but I have like no way to control all of this. Like, how am I controlling it? Like, how am I telling them we are controlling this super mega strict, and then I have no way to do it? It makes no sense. So I think it's really important to have this open discussion with the teams, and to see like what they think on regulations, or also they also sometimes have like valuable ideas on things that we should change or things that can be improved. And on what you said of what was it, people that,
How do you deal with those that think they know more than you?
it always happens. There will always be someone that thinks they know more than you, and you just have to deal with it. Talking a lot with them, spending a lot of time talking and discussing things with them, trying to get them to understand that, yes, we are like active listening, no? I'm listening to you, you're right, yes, we understand you, but this is how we do things.
There's always a but.
There's always a but. There's always,
but.
yeah, yes, perfect.
But-
I really like listening to you. You're right. Really value your opinion, but it's written like this. We're doing this. Thank you.
So
But I think it's really important to listen to them, because if not, that's when things get turned and it's all like bad moods, bad ways of talking to people. If they want to have that an exchange of words, I always say like my office is open. You can just come with all of your opinions, all of your thoughts, things of, I do another championship and in another championship, they deal with these things like this, and it's that maybe
as long
someone
as it's
will
good
come.
for everyone, it's a good mindset.
Yeah, maybe someone will come with a good idea that we can put back into our regulations.
So Neus, going back to you specifically, to you as a person, and not so much with the world of motorsport, what is next for Neus Santamaría? And I speak next, I mean, of course, for the 2025 season, but also for the future.
I always think it's complicated to think on future, because like I would never have thought that I would be here and I would be telling you like, look, I have an F1 pass for this season. Like, no way. I would never have thought that. So I always say like season by season, we'll see what this season comes, and then for 2026, who knows what can happen? Who knows if we are going to be in the same places as this year or not? But now 2025 season looks really tight. There's a lot of championships that I'm doing this season, starting with F1 Academy in 3 weeks' time in China, which will be a crazy race to start the season with.
Sure.
And now working with the same team, so we are a full Catalan team in the sporting side of F1 Academy. I'm working with Silvia Bellot, who was like my goal to reach always. So now working with them, it's just like, I don't want to say a dream come true, because I never thought of working with Silvia, but it's like, it's a gift to be working with her in F1 and be that, like being like a full Catalan team, being with people that come from like the same place
From
that
your
I come,
background
and being that in China doing a race on an F1 weekend, it's just mind-blowing.
So Neus, in that sense, I think you are well positioned to answer a question that I always like to ask, which is for someone who is at home maybe watching us and is thinking, I would like to work in motorsport. This that Neus is doing, this sounds really cool. What kind of advice would you give them? And I say them, you know, everyone on one side and women on the other side specifically as well.
I always say that the best thing to do is going to the paddocks and meeting the people that work there, because you never know if you're going to go to a paddock, you will meet someone, and then that someone will say, I'm looking for someone to do my podcast. And they will say, I met Alex in this paddock, let's just like contact him. I think it's really good to do that, like to meet people that are already working in the sport and get to know them, get to know their stories, how they did it. because that gives you all of the insight of, I want to do this, how do I do it? I think right now with all of the social networks that we have, it's even easier, because it's just like you spot someone doing something and you can just DM them and say, hi, I really like your job. Like, what do I have to do to get there? And there's a lot of people that are really bold and do that. I always say I would have been like super shy and I would not have DM'd anyone, say, hi, I want to be a race director. How do I do it?
I'm on your same boat, so I get it.
And there's a lot of people that do it. Like, I answer a lot of DMs, I answer a lot of messages of people saying, I want to be a marshal, I want to work in race control. How do I do it? And I really love whenever someone comes and works in our race control or on our racetrack and they say, no, I'm here because I sent a message to Neus. She replied to me and now I'm here working with you.
That's
and
really cool, though.
that's I always think that's crazy. That's crazy. Well, Elena did that.
So we can say...
Elena did that. I always say it because there's like the person, I always have Elena in my head because Elena like texted me once, saw an interview that I did and texted me saying like, how do I work in race control? I want to work in race control. And I replied to her, and then I saw her one day sitting in race control and I was like, I think I know this girl. And yeah, like, so it was the girl that texted me saying that.
So for those who don't know, we're talking about Elena, our producer, who is always, of course, making sure that our team is like a well-oiled machine during race weekends. And of course, she has experience working with you as well. So you were saying that you aren't, but I think we can say that you are a little bit of a role model. A little bit.
Yeah.
We can say it. We can say it. I can throw the flag.
I always say I do not love it, but
you don't have to say
I
it. I can say it.
I am a role model. I do not like it, but I understand. I am. But yeah.
I think that's very good. So Neus, last thing I always say, if there's anything that I haven't asked you that you want to share with the people, you know, a message that you want to share with the world, I think the stage is yours. If there's anything that you think that you want to share with people, with fans of motorsport, so anything that you have left on your pocket that you haven't let out?
No, I think it's that they have to know that motorsport is open for everyone, that whenever they want to go to a paddock, come see a race, come even to see race control, which always everyone says it's the thing that's fully closed and no one gets access to. But if someone wants to come and see race control and see how we work, it would be my pleasure to show them around, because I think it's really important for people to understand how we work from the inside. And I would love to see more people joining us.
That's great. Neus, thank you very much for your time with us. It's been a super pleasure. And believe me when I say that we've been here for a while, but we could be here for one more hour, and I think we wouldn't be done.
Yeah, for sure.
So
yeah, thank you so
very
much.
Good luck for the 2025 season. I think you have quite a few project in mind, and I hope that you'll continue to thrive in motorsport, because I think people like you are those that make motorsport interesting.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. This has been F4 Milestone, the countdown. Hope you enjoyed our first episode of the 2025 season, and we'll be coming in the future with more episodes, with more guests, and for sure with a lot more stories to tell.